Hi, are you suffering from empty nest syndrome? Well, I've got here today with me Jill Bennett, who is going to talk to us today about how she's prepared for empty nest syndrome and how she's actually managing it now. But first of all, Jill, I'd like to ask you what generally affects you on in a stressful way on a day-to-day basis.
I think things not going according to plan. So I come from a forces background. I was a forces child, and my father was very much a military man. So everything was always planned and organized. And to me, I love to have routine in my life. And my lifestyle has changed, as many other empty nesters will have, in the last few years, or may have just changed with students starting to go to university now. And I think when you don't get up and go to work every day, or you don't get up and make sure children get off to school every day, it can be less easy to have a proper routine in your life. And that's the sort of thing that stresses me out. I hate to find that it's suddenly 11 o'clock and I haven't done anything, I haven't achieved anything.
That would presuppose then you get up early in order to get your routine out of the way. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm the same. And I just find getting up early and getting all the things done you need to just means you've got an expansive day rather than a rushing around craziness.
Yes.
So you like everything in order, but of course life doesn't always happen in order, does it? So
no,
I guess it's kind of preparing what you can so that you can accommodate those things that happen that aren't planned.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about empty nest then. I don't know how long that's been bandied about, but as I don't have children, I don't hear about it all the time. But of course, people are talking about it a lot now, aren't they? So
yes, yeah, and sometimes you can become an empty nester, but it's very much a transient thing, because quite often your children sort of come and go. So in my case, my eldest went off to university, gosh, how old is he now? 25, 20, like 26 years, not 26 years ago, 6 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago. And when he first went, I was quite bereft. And my daughter was she's 4 years younger. So she was I'm getting rid of my brother. He says I can swap our rooms over. His room's bigger than mine, and all this gung-ho. And then on the actual day, she was broken. She just cried and cried and cried when we got to Bristol, when we were dropping him off. And so I had to be brave. I'm the mum. I had to be brave and be a shoulder for her to cry on. So I had to almost bottle up my emotions. And over the next sort of few weeks, I had lots of very empty moments where I was thinking, oh, it's really weird not having him in the house. And then you get to the stage, or I certainly got to the stage where I started looking for the good in it. And it was, I haven't got this 6 foot tall, skinny little thing that eats all the time, eats me out of house and home. So I don't have to shop so often. There's not as much laundry and there's not as much mess in the kitchen. So I started to look for the good things in it. And after a few months, decided it might be nice if my daughter would go as well, because when they first leave to go to university, they're going to be popping backwards and forwards. And certainly I used to go and visit him. We've got 2 little dogs and he was missing them, so I would drive down and take the dogs with me and take him out for lunch, have a little hug, and then go back home. So there's lots of things you can do to stop yourself from missing them too much. And then, of course, the Christmas holidays come and they come home. I haven't yet, well, I say I haven't yet had to experience the absolute no one at home because of the 4-year difference. My son finished university as my daughter started, but then he went off traveling. So I did then have absolutely no children at home. And that was very strange. Just my husband would come home from work and it would be just the 2 of us, like, what should we talk about tonight?
That changes the dynamic of the relationship between you, doesn't it?
Very much, very much. And I think it's something you do have to manage, because I can remember a friend of mine with her youngest was the age of my eldest. And she said to me, when her first one went off to university and her second one, she said lots of their friends, the marriages were breaking up.
Yeah.
After the children had gone, there was nothing really to hold them together anymore. And I think one big mistake, and I think in a way this is like a British thing, because in America, there's all this, make sure you have date nights after the baby comes along, you know, and they have this date night where they go out with their partner. But that was never encouraged when my children were small. And I barely ever left certainly my son, who was my first one, alone as a baby with a sitter. I barely never, you know, if we went anywhere, we would take him with us. And then when we had Felicity, I had by that stage started having a sitter for Harry occasionally, but with her again, then I was not leaving them with the sitter because she was so tiny. So yeah, it is bizarre that we don't think too much about our relationships. And men, you know, we hear so often about how men find it very hard to suddenly not be the center of your world. You know, for a
Yes, that's the
woman.
other end, isn't it? When you're a new
Yeah,
mum. But
yeah.
what about? I don't know why I'm holding a pen. What about? um, you know, the difference it's made now, and tips you can give to people on how to manage that.
Yeah, I think the key thing is, you know, it's going to happen. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you start doing university visits when your children are about 16. So you know it's going to happen, and you have to start preparing your life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what were the things you used to do before you had children that you really enjoyed? So for me, I used to be an avid gym goer. I used to run. And I'd kept up little bits of that since having the children, but not in anywhere near the way that I used to before I had the children. So I'd started getting back into some of that. Gyms are great places to meet people if you know, go down in the morning after dropping the children off. You'll find lots of other mums there. And at the moment, I know gyms might not be a place people want to go, but classes or online classes. If you don't have a lot of friends in the area, maybe outside of your children's schools, there's Meetup online, and you can meet up with people who go for a dog walk, who just go for lunch, who might want to learn a language together, who run craft clubs, knitting clubs, you name it. And there are meetup groups for everything. And you can pick something that you're passionate about or used to be passionate about, and start making friends in that way, so that you're not so lost. It breaks my heart because I joined a couple of online Facebook groups, and for empty nesters, and I think one is called Empty Nesters and one was called Empty Nester Soon. And these women were just, they would write these essays on how lost they were and how they kept going into their child's bedroom and just sitting on their bed. And it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't have to be that way. When we bring a child into the world, we know they're with us for, you know, 18 summers basically, and they will come back. Of course they will. I mean, my kids, I love spending time with them now, but I'm not their world anymore. They've got their friendship groups, they've got their friends from university, friends from school, from when they were at school, and they do their own thing. So I treasure those moments, and I treasure the times we are together. But by having my, you know, I'm into cycling now, so by having my friends I meet for cycling, we're actually spending a lot of our time here in Mallorca, where there's neither of the children are. They have been out, obviously, and they love to visit. But it means that it is just my husband and I, and I just keep my life really, really full, doing lots of lovely things.
I think it's a great opportunity, actually, because, you know, what you're saying is people have devoted their entire being to being a parent, and that it creates a big hole. But it's an opportunity, to create a new chapter, which it might build on what you used to enjoy before, but it might be actually, you know, I want to evolve into something else.
Yeah.
It might be, you know, creating a new business or learning the piano. I'm doing the piano at the moment, not so well, but also in preparing, you know, who do I want to be when the kids are have left or at university, also preparing them, because if the relationship is very, very close, it's going to feel very awkward for them when they go to university. They haven't
Yeah.
got mum and dad around at their beck and call for whatever, whenever they need a chat or a hug or
Yeah.
a joke or whatever else. They've got to develop their social skills in
Yes.
an environment. So there's kind of a double benefit there, isn't there, really?
Absolutely. And there's so much you can do to make your bond stronger whilst making them independent. So things like teaching them how to do the laundry, and if
Yeah.
they've never done it, teaching them, you know, my daughter's always been in the kitchen with me and loves to, in fact, she's a brilliant cook, but my son had never really been that interested. So I made him, come on, tonight we're going to do a bolognese, you know, the staples that students would eat, and you can cook them together. And it was brilliant because when he did go to uni, he'd quite often FaceTime me. And I mean, there's something, we've got FaceTime, Zoom, all these things now, which
Yeah.
certainly in our day of leaving home, we never had any of those things. And he would sort of contact me and he'd say, right, I'm cooking for our house. You know, they had a big 8-person apartment in the Horsell residence. Oh, it's my turn to cook tonight and I'm cooking X, you know, but I'm not sure how to do this. What can I do? And he'd ring me in advance and I'd tell him what he needed to buy. And then he'd ring me while he was cooking it. Look, I'm doing it. Is that right? You know, and it's just lovely because you've still got that contact. They still need you, but they are becoming more independent and sort of breaking away a little bit more.
Mm. There's a lovely quote that I use quite a lot actually with my clients for different reasons. It's got a number of applications, but it's something, and I can't remember who said it. I'm so sorry, but it's something like, one of the difficult things about being a parent is teaching your child to ride a bike. They need both, something like independence and security. That's not exactly what it is. The difficulty is that's all they will ever need. Because I think when you're a parent, you want to hold your child and protect them so much, but actually
Yeah.
by the falling down, I've really mucked up that quote. I'll see if I can dig it out and give the right one. It's only by falling down and them having to get up and learn from that experience that they really develop and grow. That's
Yeah, absolutely.
nice.
And I think it's a time, especially if you haven't prepared yourself, where you worry so much. I
Mm.
mean, you know, my son went to a school that was quite a long way away from where we lived. And so when he got to the stage when he was doing his A levels and he used to go out after school, the school was in Hampton. We lived in Horsley, and a lot of his friends lived in Chiswick and Putney, and so they would go out into London at age 18 and he would get the train all the way back to Horsley. And this is again the difference between parents, I guess, because I'd be in bed and it would be a Friday or a Saturday night because he wasn't allowed to do it during the week. And I'd be lying in bed and I'd think, oh, what time is it? Oh, I bet he's coming on the last train, which got into Horsley at something like 10 to 1 in the morning. And my husband would be snoring away and I'd be lying there, oh, I can hear
Peaceful.
rain. Oh, it's raining. And we lived a good, you know, mile and a half from the station. And Harry would just, no streetlights in Horsley. Harry would just jog home. But I would nearly always still be awake. So I'd just put a dressing gown on, get in the car and go and pick him up.
I guess that kind of protective instinct doesn't really go, but when they're at uni, it's got to.
You've got to let them go. You've got to let them go. And I think you then, you know, there are nights when you lie there thinking, oh, I mean, to me, Freshers Week is the most ridiculous concept that these children who've never, most of them never been away from home, are suddenly away from home in a completely strange environment and encouraged to get drunk every night. What's that about? Because you know how you feel when you're hungover the next morning. You feel very vulnerable. And yet that's what they're encouraged to do. And I think it's a ridiculous concept. But, you know, I would lie at home worrying and want to call him, but want him to call me.
So how would you manage that stress? Because that kind of is a stress that you can't do anything about, you know, short of kind of phoning them up, are you okay? You're not drunk, are you? So what do you do about that stress, or you just learn to live with it?
You sort of learn to live with it, but I think another thing I did a few years before, and not because I was preparing myself for for the whole empty nest thing, but I started to explore my sort of spiritual side, and I got into meditation. And I think something like that is so good. So if you really are worrying and you just sit down, you get a guided meditation to stop you worrying, and really start to, you know, go into a nice deep meditation, you can come out of it. And I mean, I love that Mark Twain quote. I've had a lot of worry in my life, most of which has never happened. And it's true, isn't it? We all worry about, you know, if my husband was late home from work, if I knew he'd driven into London, and I'd be thinking, oh God, I wonder if he's had an accident. You know, how ridiculous is that?
So the meditation is something that really helps.
Meditation is a brilliant thing. And if you've got into the whole sport thing, that's another thing. You know, you could go out for a walk or a run, or I had a treadmill at home. I was very lucky, so I could jump on the treadmill and, you know, just run out a couple of miles. But it would, anything like that will stop that worry and stop you thinking about it. Do something else, do something that takes your mind off it. Have a nice hot bath with some nice music and you know, a nice bubbly bath and candles. Bit of you time, but just to take your mind off it.
That has really been helpful. Thank you so much, Jill. So I'm going to ask anybody who's got any other tips for dealing with empty nest syndrome to make some comments down below. And if you would like to subscribe, please do, or forward this on to anybody that you think might benefit. Anyway, for now, let's say thank you very much, Jill, who's from, I was going to say Marbella. What is it with me? I've written it down on a piece of paper. It's in Mallorca, part of Spain. Thanks
and Sydney's been keeping us all company as well.
I saw his little ear, I didn't mention it, but yes. Hello, Sydney.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be on with you, Tricia.
All right, and you too. You take care now.
And you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.